If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
It's KFI AM 640, and you're listening to The Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app. And the Conway family has always had a great reputation and a great relationship with the district attorneys of L.A. County. I go back to Jackie Lacey, Steve Cooley, back to Garcetti, Reiner. I don't know who was before Reiner. I think it was either Vandy Camp or Philibosian, but we go way back and respect the DA in L.A. County much more so than other political positions. It's a very important position, and I think this guy, Nathan Hochman, is knocking it out. And he joins us. Mr. Hochman, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me on.
But I really appreciate coming on. On a personal note, you and I have lived sort of parallel lives. We both graduated from high school in Los Angeles in 1981. We're both class of 1981.
I loved it. Were you also class of 85 from college?
Well, that's where we part ways. I went into radio, and you guys got your nose stuck in those books, and thank God you did. But we got some things to discuss. But, I think that, when you were trying to be, the Attorney General for the state of California, I'm sort of glad that didn't work out, because I think it's more important, at least for us in Los Angeles, that we have somebody in your office like you as opposed to a statewide office. I think you can get more done locally here. Is that true?
I think you're absolutely right. In part, one of the reasons I actually wanted to become the Attorney General when Gascon was the DA is that the Attorney General is the DA's boss.
Oh, good.
And I actually said during that campaign that if Gascon wasn't going to do his job, the Attorney General could actually come in on each case in which he failed to do so and substitute him out and bring the Attorney General's lawyers in. But actually being the DA directly allows me to affect 180,000 criminal cases that are prosecuted by the DA's office in just L.A. County every year.
Wow.
And be in charge of 750 prosecutors who do that work, who are incredibly talented and experienced and do a great job every day. And so you're right. For the immediate impact in Los Angeles County, being the LA DA provides that opportunity.
Looking forward, I know you're a forward-thinking man. You don't like to dwell in the past. But just a quick question. How long did it take you to clean the mess up once you got into the DA's office that Gascon left?
So we did a 40-person reorganization the first day I showed up. We prepared it ahead of time. We moved out over the next probably 1 month, all these supervisors that he had brought in from the public defender's office to supervise prosecutors. They got moved to different departments or different parts of the county. And we brought in the people. My upper management team is incredible. My chief deputy, Stephen Katz, has 35 years of experience. My 4 assistant district attorneys average only 30 years of experience. And then the directors below them average a mere 25 years each of experience. So we brought in the people who have done the job, who have the highest levels of respect, integrity, and trust in the office, and they're now helping me run the office.
Before we get into the local big stories here that are grabbing the headlines, I got to tell you a quick, great story about Jackie Lacey, who was the DA before Gascon. I ran into her at the Autry Museum. There was a charity event that she was speaking at, and they wanted me to MC it. And I was sitting next to, not only at Jackie Lacey's table, but I was sitting next to her. And she was talking about how much she loved the Carol Burnett show and how she would love to go back and just watch it with her mom and dad. And I said to her, oh, that's great. I said, if my picture ever comes across your desk, would you give me a break? And you know what she said? She said, Tim, if your picture comes and lands on my desk, you've passed up on a lot of breaks. That's a great line.
That's actually That's a great line. A really great line.
That's great. Okay, let's get into this. I grew up in the Encino area, Tarzana, and then Encino. We had a house on the flats. My dad had 6 kids, so we weren't, Encino Hills material. But I understand the people in Encino are freaked out about the double murder that happened off of White Oak. And have you found out anything more about, about how this happened? And did the calls come from inside the house when this guy, murdered these 2 people allegedly, and then called the cops? Did he call the cops on himself from the house?
So, as you can well respect, there's an ongoing investigation on all the details of this particular case.
Right.
What we do know is over the weekend, you had a situation where this individual went ahead and climbed over the wall that separated their house from the street. A neighbor, we think it's a neighbor, called 911, alerted the police to that. Then, unfortunately, Robin Kay and Tom DeLuca had come back home. The individual, who we later determined was Raymond Budarian, was in the home waiting for them. And also, unfortunate, he was able to obtain their gun. He ends up shooting them, as we believe the evidence will show in court, with their gun. At that point, the police are not alerted beyond the original burglary, and the police weren't in a position to stop that shooting. What thereafter happens is information is brought to the police that has them go to the house 4 days later when they do a check on the house. So they had done a check on the house to begin with, and that was after, even if they had gotten in at the house, that was after, unfortunately, these 2 homeowners had been shot.
Right.
They don't get into the house the first time, but they do receive a 911 call after they find the bodies. And the timing, we'll get into the timing of that call when the evidence comes out at trial or in a hearing. But they are able to be alerted to a call that Mr. Budarian had made.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. On Demand from KFI AM 640.
And they tracked the cell phone from the phone number to where Mr. Budarian was within 24 hours after they found the bodies. They were able to arrest him at that point. We believe that we have the right person. Anything I describe about the case won't be evidence in court. That'll be evidence we actually present in court. But as the charges have said, he is being charged with 2 first-degree murders with special circumstances, which means he's looking at a minimum of life without the possibility of parole.
And you know what? Again, DA Nathan Hochman is with us. After this case also may save some lives, because after this, after the information came out that this guy shot these 2 people with their own gun, my wife said to me, "Hey, look, we have got to get a gun safe," because I thought after your kids turned 18 and they became adults, that there was, very little reason to lock up the guns anymore. But this is a glaring oversight that you should always keep your guns locked up, even though your kids are older and are adults.
I would agree. I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment, but I'm also a believer that when someone is confronted by an intruder in their house, being able to have enormous amount of experience on how and when to use that gun appropriately is something that you have to invest the time in. And not only just going to a gun range and shooting it, because I will guarantee you, if there's an intruder in your house and you're holding your gun at that point, your heart rate is as high as it is going to go in your life.
Right.
The adrenaline is pumping. They actually say it narrows your vision. It restricts your hearing.
Wow.
And the last thing you want to do is find out that your daughter had her boyfriend come over late at night and you shoot him. or somehow the intruder now hears you coming at him and is racing to get out of your house and gets shot in the back as he's trying to run away.
Right.
Or worse, you shoot, you miss, and that bullet goes through a door or two and kills someone else in your house. So again, if you have the appropriate training in these type of incredibly intense situations, you'll be able to slow things down. That's what people with either police training or military training talk about. That they've done it so many times that they can actually slow the entire situation down and make good decisions based on the fact that they've thought through these situations hundreds of times before.
Yeah, a lot
in
of
this case
training.
is an example that necessarily having a gun in the house isn't going to save you.
Right. District Attorney Nathan Hochman is with us. Before you came into office, my wife and I seriously talked about moving out of Los Angeles. And when you came in, it was a big sigh of relief in our house that there might be somebody now in charge, an adult in charge, and this city might be able to turn around and save itself. I think a lot of people in L.A. feel that exact same way about you being the district attorney and no longer George Gascon.
Well, and I very much appreciate it. This job is sort of, one of the greatest honors a lawyer in our community could ever have, to be able to serve the public. And what I did from day one is I reestablished sort of a regime of accountability for criminals. I basically got rid of Gascon's special directives that said certain crimes and certain criminals would no longer be prosecuted, notwithstanding the facts and the evidence. So, for instance, juveniles who are committing misdemeanors, which are people under 18, for instance, stealing just under $950, he had a special directive they would not be prosecuted. Gang members engaged in violent crimes, he refused to allow his prosecutors to bring the gang enhancement, which for 30 years had worked by assessing additional years of prison to a gang member engaged in a violent crime to basically cripple criminal street gangs. All that was gone for 4 years, and criminals got used to being arrested in the morning and out by the afternoon, or not getting arrested at all, or getting a relative slap on the wrist for a whole variety of crimes that they otherwise had been held accountable for. So from day one, I got rid of and rescinded all 9 of Gascon's special directives. And as importantly, I reestablished the trust with my own prosecutors. These prosecutors, again, incredibly talented group of people. They voted 98% to support Gascon's recall.
Wow.
So I've worked very hard to reestablish the esprit de corps in the DA's office, translated that over to law enforcement. Gascon had been more interested in prosecuting law enforcement than partnering with them. I've told law enforcement that the DA's office is open for business again. Bring us great cases with tons of evidence, and we will give a fair shot to every one of those cases, having taken the political agenda off the table and gone back to the facts and the law.
That's
and then
fantastic.
I took the argument as well to victim groups. Victim groups have felt abandoned by George Gascon. I've shown up for their meetings. I've talked to their leaders, and I said, look, the DA's office has to be the champion of victims in the system. A defendant gets their own defense attorney. There's a judge, there's a jury, but who represents the victims if not the DA's office? So I've reestablished that role, a key role that the DA's office plays in the system to make sure it is the champion of victims in every court in which there is a victim situation.
That's fantastic.
So we're taking these. Thank you. I mean, it's been a great opportunity to get an office that is one of the premier DA's offices in the nation back on track, reestablish that partnership with both victims and law enforcement. And then there's a fourth group that I've taken my messages to. That's the criminals. I've told the criminals that, look, you had 4 years of fun and games, lack of accountability, but that's over. And it doesn't mean I'm going to go ahead and replace Gascon's decarceration, which is what he called it, with mass incarceration. Both political philosophies aren't anchored in the facts and the law. What I've instituted is what I call the hard work middle, or the hard middle approach, because it actually takes a lot of work to look at each case individually, the individual defendant and their background, the crime committed, and the impact on the victim to determine who the true threats are to our public safety. And those are often the repeat offenders who have to be behind bars. And as importantly, the ones that aren't. The first-time nonviolent offender still has to pay a debt back to society for violating society's laws, but that's where non-prison alternatives in that class of cases come to play. Whether it's community service, restitution, pay it back if you stole something, or if you have a serious drug addiction that got you to do the crime, we'll give you an opportunity for a diversion program that gives you a choice. You can go to prison, or you can do an 18-month, one day at a time, rigorous rehab program that if you succeed, will give you a certificate and will wipe that crime off your record. That is what a proportional, common sense, hard middle approach looks like that we've been instituting.
That's great. DA, District Attorney for LA County, Nathan Hochman is with us. Let's now talk about the horrible, attempted murder that happened on Friday night, late last Friday night, where a guy who's thrown out of the Vermont club, Ramirez, then allegedly turns around and drives his car into 37 people. Should that guy have been off the streets? Is that something that if you were the DA over the last, 4 to 6, 8 years, instead of just, a year and a half or so, is that somebody who may not have been on the streets?
Well, we charged a pending case that he had out of Orange County, a 2022 domestic violence case that is still pending, has not been resolved. Had that case been resolved and had he been sentenced on that case, he very well may not have been there this prior weekend to basically use his car as a plow as he was going down a sidewalk, taking out 37 people. And God love it and thank God that nobody actually got killed.
A miracle.
Not for any good driving on this part. It is truly a miracle that people suffered, obviously, serious situation, broken bones, fractures, lacerations. But even the person who was underneath his car didn't end up dying.
Wow.
So that is a small miracle. And by the way, the work of our first responders, over 100 firefighters and police, at like 2 a.m. in the morning, descend into East Hollywood. They do triage and treatment in a way that is just incredible. They got 37 people to a hospital. Again, 8 of them were suffering from these great bodily injuries, and nobody died. So my hat goes off to the incredible work that our first responders did in this situation.
And again, we're talking to Nathan Hochman, District Attorney of County of Los Angeles. What is this kid? And I imagine he's a kid. I heard he's in his 20s, maybe early 30s. What is he looking at? Is he looking at life in prison without the possibility of parole for this act?
So it's attempted murder, and we charge him with 1 count of attempted murder and 1 count of assault with a deadly weapon, that being the car, for each of the 37 victims. So that's 37 counts of attempted murder, 37 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. All these charges carry life sentences. Now, it's not life without the possibility of parole. That's reserved for a a first-degree murder with special circumstances type of situation. But he easily could get multiple life sentences. In fact, we would seek all 37 life sentences against him. So will this guy get parole in his lifetime? One would very much hope no. But I can't speak for the California state legislature and what they might do in the future.
It is it's a breath of fresh air. I can't imagine how Gascon would have treated this guy. But I bet when you go to the office, I imagine on a daily basis, some of the district attorneys, some of the attorneys that you have in the office probably come up to you, if not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and tell you about how the morale is picked up in your office.
People have been very kind. They share with me that they're enjoying doing the job again, and I share with them and give them my appreciation, because these are folks that work late into the weekday night. They work on weekends. The stress level when you're in trial when you've got the responsibility of the victims and their entire family counting on you to make sure that you can convict the person that hurt their loved one. I mean, this is a stressful, exhausting, but exhilarating job. And so every time they say anything nice to me, I return it immediately and say thank you for the great service that you have rendered to this county.
That's fantastic. I'm glad you're in the office. You know, you may have been asking yourself, you know, you were on with John Colbell, and John was very instrumental in trying to help you get elected, and you didn't really hear from this show or from me, and I'll tell you why. Every politician we've ever had on our show has lost in dramatic fashion. 20, 30, 40 points.
I'd be happy to break that curse or that streak. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I've heard your show for years. You do a great job, and I very much appreciate being on.
Buddy, I really appreciate you coming on, and I can't tell you how great it is to have a guy in there who understands the victims are the priority and not these criminals.
Well, again, I've been to groups that you never want to be part of. Parents for Murdered Children, Justice for Murdered Children. These are mothers and actually some fathers, but mostly mothers who run these organizations that have taken incredibly tragic grief situations of having a son or a daughter murdered and created these incredible support groups that when someone sadly has to enter that organization or that club, they embrace them, they wrap their arms around them, they show them that there can be, some ray of light out there in the world still. They channel that energy into hopefully preventing these type of murderers from ever getting out and hopefully not even committing these type of crimes in the first place. So again, it's been an honor to be able to be the champion of these groups again.
Fantastic. I appreciate you coming on. Keep up the great work, and hopefully you never see my photo on your desk.
If I see it, I'll put it in a frame and stare at it every day and think great thoughts.
Right.
That's the only way I'll see your photo on my desk.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Fantastic. Good luck, and keep up the hard work.
Thanks again. Take care.
Right. This is great. Nathan Hochman, District Attorney of L.A. County. We've got a guy back in office who is going to give a voice to the victims and is going to go after these hardened criminals. And he said it. He says, he's not going after a guy who steals something for the first time or a guy who's selling drugs for the first time. He's going to give those people a chance, give them 18 months of a diversion program. And if they successfully, survive and pass the diversion program, that their record is going to be wiped clean. So he's fair, but if you're a hardened criminal in Los Angeles, the gas gone days are over. And so you gotta straighten up. It's time to leave the crime behind and get yourself a gig, start paying your bills like everybody else, all us other losers out here.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
The Conway Show, that was awesome. If you missed any part of that, you can go back and listen to it on our podcast. D.A. Hochman was on with us. Nathan Hochman. Never talked to that young man. Or not young man. I guess we graduated high school in 1981, same year. So same age man. Not young man or old man. Same age man. He's a same age man. I think anyone uses that term. All right, you win $1,000. Here's how the contest works.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bills. That's Bills, B-I-L-L-S. Enter it now at KFIAM640.com/cash. Powered by Sweet James Accident Attorneys. If you're hurt in an accident, winning is everything. Call the winning attorneys at Sweet James. 1-800-9-MILLION. That's 1-800-9-MILLION or sweetjames.com.
Just go to the website, KFIAM640.com/cash. The keyword is bills, and you could win $1,000. $1,000. And you can spend it any way you like, any way you want. This portion of the show is being brought to you by Advanced Hair. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Make your appointment today at advancedhair.com. All right, we had the fire earlier on the 71 freeway was closed. Angel Martinez, the sweetest voice in talk radio. Any update?
Thank you. Well, they are out there with the freeway shut down still. This is both directions of the 71 between the 91 and Butterfield Ranch Euclid. But Caltrans is on the scene. They're getting that left lane reopened in both directions for travel. Now, currently, all the firefighters, I'm looking at a live shot right now, and I'm still seeing a lot of fire trucks out along the 71. It looks like northbound is maybe the first side to open because we have a lot of fire trucks still on the southbound side.
Northbound 71 from the 91.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. It's not open yet. They're still working on getting that left lane reopened. They're doing a little bit of cleanup, but they're in the process of doing that as we speak.
Excellent.
And I will let you know as soon as it starts rolling.
Thank you, Angel Martinez. Crocia, I got a question for you. I went to San Bernardino on Monday night, Sunday night, Monday night. I don't remember what night it was.
All right.
I think it was Sunday night. And I drove back westbound 210 from San Bernardino to Burbank.
Right.
And I felt like I was off-roading. The amount of potholes and chunks of freeway that are missing from that freeway, westbound 210, especially through Pasadena, or through Arcadia and then Pasadena, is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It is. I always look at it as on my way home because it does have a carpool lane, but it's not like the newer one. I think it's like one of the most neglected freeways in the Southland.
It has to be
for updates and things like that.
But there's an incredible volume on that freeway. It's the alternate to the 10 freeway. I remember, for many, many years. Did you live out there when that 210 didn't even exist?
I did. When it ended at Foothill Boulevard, right there at Glendora, Laverne sort of line there. Yeah,
I remember that. I remember them opening that freeway, and a half hour after they opened it, it was bumper to bumper traffic.
Yeah, well, it took. We had a nice little grace period where people hadn't really discovered it yet, especially people coming from like the Cajon Pass. They were still going down to the 10, but after like 2 years, and all of a sudden, everybody realized, now it's horrendous pretty much since. And you know that area, especially around Santa Anita, which is right east of Pasadena. And they're always doing work on the sound barrier walls. Always.
Yeah.
But the freeway itself, they don't really touch too much.
Yeah, I've also noticed that but I will say this of that freeway, the 210 freeway, from about Glendale all the way to where it ends out near Yamava, the shoulders of that freeway are always beautifully landscaped. They have trees and it looks nice.
Well, I'm always fascinated by when you're driving through specific towns because I think they have the regulation of what they do on the sides there on the shoulders.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The hill. Yeah, depending on the city, they control kind of what they do. Because if you go through Claremont, to me, it's like the ugliest landscaping there. And Claremont is also it goes down. The 210 goes down below the level of the rest of the ground around it,
which is nice for noise.
So it's sunken. Yeah, it is. Especially for me, who my backyard, the wall is the freeway, so that definitely helps. And it also helps with fires and stuff.
Yeah, and I will say this of Burbank as well. I told this to a guy who works in Burbank. I don't know what his capacity is, but I said, when you go to Burbank or you leave Burbank, the first thing you see when you come into Burbank and the last thing you see when you leave Burbank for 90% of the people are the freeway on-ramps and off-ramps.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we make them nice so people as the last vision they have of Burbank is beautiful, or the first vision that they have of Burbank is beautiful? Why are they filled with trash and dead plants and and weeds?
And half the time, what's odd about that is that it seems like once a week, right around Thursday, midday as I'm coming in, they've got the street sweepers on the shoulders. So it's like they're apparently frequently cleaning them, but they're always filthy.
Yeah, they need new landscaping. And I'm willing to work. I'll get my hands dirty. I'll get out there and pick up trash on an off ramp.
One of those signs that says "Kept up by Tim Conway
That's
Jr."
right. I would dedicate a Saturday, 2 Saturdays a month to getting out there and cleaning the freeway on ramps and off ramps. I think it's important.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
a city to have nice, clean freeways.
When you drive cross country and you see how other cities, the sides of their freeways on the shoulders and stuff, completely beautifully manicured. Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating to see it out here.
But when I first started driving when I was 16, they were all beautiful freeways out here.
Oh, so
every one of them. The ice plant with the flowers, the ivy, the pine trees, the oak trees. It was the eucalyptus trees. They were spectacular. And now, there's no money in California, so they're all neglected.
Yeah.
And it really is an eyesore because, there are millions of people that will never ever go to Upland or Claremont, but those millions of people pass through it on the freeway, and they want to see that that your hometown and it ups the property values as well, that it's kept up nice.
Maybe that's part of the strategy is to keep it dumpy looking so that they don't have a bunch of people coming through their town.
Maybe
they don't want to get off. And it's like, we don't want them stopping here. We have enough people here.
Like, it's a crappy part of town. We can't stop here.
Claremont's notorious for that. We don't want more people.
Yeah, Madge, let's keep driving. This Claremont's horrible. But I think freeway on ramps and off ramps should be beautiful. It's the last thing and the first thing that people see of your city. Completely. So I'm willing to volunteer. If anybody else is in Burbank, call me. Or send an email here, and I'll jump on that.
You're listening to Tim Conway Jr. on demand from KFI AM 640.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.
If you went to the Dodger game this afternoon, they played the Minnesota Twins, and they won in the bottom of the ninth. Dodgers had, I don't know if it was bases loaded. I think it was man on second and third. And Freddie Freeman was up, 2 outs. All they had to do is get Freddie Freeman out, and the Twins win the series 2-1. But the ball was hit into left field. The left fielder had a shot. If he caught it, game's over. And he missed it. 2-run score, and the Dodgers win with a walk-off single in the bottom of the ninth. And that's very indicative of a team that goes on to win the World Series. When you win those tight games at home, that's a big deal. So if you went to the Dodger game today, congratulations. And you stayed to the bottom of the ninth. You saw a huge celebration on the field with your Los Angeles Dodgers beating the Twins 4-3, the final at Dodger Stadium. Ding dong with those Dodgers. All right, now we have the Los Angeles Times in the news. The owner is taking the paper public. So you can pick up a copy of the Times, you can become a subscriber of the Times, and you can own part of the LA Times.
The Los Angeles Times will become a publicly traded company. Billionaire owner Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong made the announcement yesterday on The Daily Show.
Important for the paper to have voices of all. And that's what I wanted to do, right? Whether you right, left, Democrat, Republican, you're an American. So the opportunity for us to provide a paper that is the voices of the people, truly the voices of the people. So I'm going to announce something with you tonight, is that we're literally going to take LA Times public and allow it to be democratized and allow the public to be ownerships of this paper.
Wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
There you go. The LA Times now, it's going to be publicly traded, and you could buy into it. I think he bought the Times and the San Diego Tribune. I think it was $500 or $550 million. I don't know what portion, what percentage of that paper is going to be public, but interesting. It may save that paper. They've had a lot of layoffs, a lot of cutbacks, And now when they go public, there'll be a lot more cash initially. So they might be able to hire new reporters, more investigative work. Maybe they'll keep an eye on downtown Los Angeles and see what happened to the $3.5 billion that was supposed to be spent on homeless people and where that money went. Maybe we can hope, I guess. I go way back with the LA Times. I love the LA Times. I used to go to the beach with my buddies, and we took the beach bus. It would pick us up on Balboa and Ventura, go to Sepulveda, then to Westwood, and then there was 3 buses, and then to the Santa Monica. And I would always bring the sports page with me. And while my buddies were talking to girls on the beach and playing in the sand and swimming and, I don't know, playing Frisbee, I was reading Jim Murray's column from the LA Times as a 7th grader.
That's deadly.
It's pretty hot, huh?
Probably wearing black socks with sandals, too.
No, I did wear socks with my shoes, not black, but I did wear shoes and socks on the sand. And, man, you're right, Bella. How did you know that the people made fun of me for that? I don't think I ever told you that. Is that just a guess?
Just a guess.
Just a wild guess, huh? Yeah. I'm not a big sand with the bare feet guy. I don't like that. I like to wear tennis shoes with big wool socks.
Wool.
That's right. All right. Hershey's is going to raise the price. This is not good news for you people out there. When we come back, we'll talk about that. And I was inspired by the Petros and Money show. They have a hot dog steamer. And I said to Matt, Conway Show on demand on the iHeartRadio app. Now, you can always hear us live on KFI AM 640, 4 to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app.
If you eat too many ultra-processed foods, you could be starving your gut microbes, and they'll get hangry. That's one of many things I learned after working on a new audio course about the gut microbiome. You can learn how to keep your gut happy by listening to Try This from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn. I host Try This. Dig in with me on practical advice for life's common challenges. Follow Try This right now wherever you're listening. Seriously, try it.